This is a big boy. Dasung. This is a big unit. This is a 25.3 inch Kaleido 3 color EINK screen. This is a monitor. Dasung is celebrating their 10th year as printed on the box. These guys have made a ton of units under their belt, mostly monitors. They have deviated a couple times with the link, the not e-reader, etc. But for the most part, they do monitors. Now this thing is a massive screen, but it's only 150 ppi. And that's concerning because it's so big. However, no less than 3 times on the box do they write revolutionary, godlike level high refresh. I'm not doubting that, but that's a pretty bold claim to say godlike refresh because, well, they've had a couple problems with their previous units as seen in many reviewers from around the world. Now we are very excited to try this out, and we do very much thank Dasung for sending us this sample. This thing is supposed to be as fast as LCD at 33 Hz. I don't know, we haven't tried it yet, but we're about to. Looking at the unit, it's a complete plastic build from front to back with some speakers at the bottom, a sunken screen, and some nice control buttons down below. You have a shiny Dasung logo smack dead in the center, and on the bottom you have several ports. The stand can move left to right, and tilt, and slide up and down as it is quite heavy and built with strong, robust materials. Today we're going to be looking at 3 main things: color vibrancy, speed, and overall usability. So let's dive in. To start things off, if you notice on the left and the right side of the monitor itself, you'll see a little bit of a peeking image of an Amazon Kindle and an LCD photo frame. That was by design, so you guys can compare along the way as you shift your eyes what it will look like as the screen proceeds. Initial looks are that it's pretty dull, and we'll get into some changes in how to mitigate this in a second. Just to show you, here's my hand off camera. This is the type of light we're dealing with in the room today, and if I throw a cell phone on the screen really quick, we have various degrees of reflectivity around the room, and it will look like this on a black LCD phone. Again, keep your eyes on the sides of the screen if you want to compare. Now, because this is 150 ppi, it just looks super blurry and washed out, and the reflectivity is pretty strong, as you can see the reflection of my hand as I move it up and down here. So overall, right out of the gates, it's not looking incredibly good for them, but let's do some things to really brighten it up, speed it up, and make it look as best we can when it comes to color content. And one of the first things we can do is shuffle through the modes. So we're going to press the M button, and you'll see the various modes and the degreeing differences of each mode. So text mode looks pretty paltry, and this is usually reserved for just black and white text. If we go over to graphic mode, this one evidently looks the best out of all of them. You can start to see that we do have some nice round edges around the balls. And if we go over to video mode, this one's going to be quite grainy, but this one is going to have one of the fastest refreshes. This is where you're going to be taking advantage of those 33 Hz. And finally, we have auto mode, which just makes the entire screen looks like someone put a pink layer over it. So we're not going to be using that one too much. We're going to be going over to graphic mode for our color tests. Secondly, we can choose our glow light. So we have the ability to press orange, off, little bit mix, and then blue. And you can choose different degrees of the glow light by pressing the glow light button and the plus or minus at the same time. This is going to be the one we're going with. This is the best white balance for the color images. It is not too blue, it is not too pink, it is not too orange. So we're going to be loading this one up. We're going to go as bright as we possibly can and show some HD images. We have zoomed in just a little bit to show you guys, and yes, we have not changed any of the white balance, so that is kind of just the end result of how it looks. Now we can pinch and zoom to get a closer image, and this is an HD image. You'll see that we do have some nice rounded edges now, but if you take a note of, say, the black center here, you'll see that it is quite pixelated and there's almost big gaps in between the dots. And that's supposed to be the light shading. So you can do some things to clear everything up and give it a refresh once you do a pinch and zoom, but this kind of dotting just seems to be consistent with any time you have highlights or lowlights on any part of the screen at any given time. You'll see the set as default up top is all grainy as well, and basically all the parts of anything that isn't just pure white, even some of the pure white, just seems to suffer from a lot of these kind of dots. And again, if you change the mode, it's going to be consistent through pretty much any of the modes you go to. When you go to auto mode, the contrast is essentially lost, and if you go to text mode, it just has two colors essentially with no grays of any kind. So again, that graphic mode is going to be your go-to and really the only one you're going to be able to use. Finally, to be completely fair and run it through the full gamut of what it is able to do, we have it on graphic mode, the best mode possible. We can now change the plus and minus without pressing the glow light button to alter the contrast, and we'll just show you each mode. So if we go to the darkest, right there, and then it'll pop up to the lightest. So the differences between the two is as follows, right there and right there. So this is essentially the most vibrant you can make the screen, and we haven't tested for speed yet, so we'll say that we hope this is fast. Now for the part that truly matters, which is videos. We're going to make sure we're on the right mode, auto, text, graphic, video, and we're going to change the back a little bit so we can get some contrast right about there, clear the page, and away we go. Now this is going to be a darker video before we get into something a little bit lighter, because one of the consensus of Dasung products is that they struggle with blacks and whites when it comes to darker tones, harder to find contrasts. So what we're seeing here is pretty much identical movement on the screen with our laptop. This is looking fairly nice, honestly. There's a little bit of blurring. It does really struggle with those highlights and lowlights. You can see it looks very splotchy, like someone spilt some paint anytime it needs to create those shines, those reflective parts, those parts that have kind of that patterned contrast. You can see where the light is coming out from. It does struggle to produce those, but the absolute fluidity of the unit itself is quite consistent and is pretty much on par with what it would look like on a laptop. And if you are thinking we can do something to change the experience to just make it quote-unquote look better, there's not a whole lot of functionality outside of changing the modes. If you go to auto mode, it becomes almost unviewable, and you're really just letting it use its own knowledge to find the best mode for you. Text mode is awful because it's meant to do black and whites, and graphic mode isn't entirely suitable either, as it is just overly grainy. Video mode is the one that is proper for this application. Alright, so video looked poor but performed well. Color images and color content looked poor and performed poorly. However, how does ebooks and text look? We have to figure this out right now. So again, we have to go back to our modes and we have to choose auto mode, text mode. Now you see it's really purple and we don't like that. So what do? We have to change our backlight first and foremost to find something that looks the best. And that is looking like it is going to be this one right, probably right here. And now we have to adjust for contrast. So we have our different levels here, and it looks like it's going to be the absolute one before it goes dark again, which is going to be this one right here. Finally, we can adjust the glow light to right there. So that is just about as good as it's going to look and as white as it is going to look. If I bring an e-reader into frame, the one that was in question this whole time right here, this is what an e-reader kind of should look like. And then this is the Dasung right beside it. So we do have a pretty stark difference between the two screen technologies if we show it right here. Now remember, Kaleido is darker than traditional e-paper. So if you're looking for a pure white, regardless of the fact that they have their super whitening algorithm, which does look good for Kaleido, it's not ever going to match a traditional ebook reader in terms of the overall black on white vividness and contrast. That being said, let's get into it. Let's do some pinch and zooms, let's move it around, and let's essentially read a book. Now once we get to a part where we want to read, we'll just go like that. We want to clear the screen, to be completely fair. That looks pretty good, honestly. For a Kaleido device, or a Gallery 3 device, or just something that is of this size versus the amount of resolution and PPI it has, it looks not bad. And what's more is that not only does it not look bad, it's fluid. And that is the most important thing, because technically speaking, Dasung has never said their item actually looks good. If you read the box, if you read the manual, if you read all the documentation they give you in the box, they say that it is fast. They never said it actually looks good. They say it has some algorithms that help with color, and they say they have some algorithms that help with clearing the whiteness on the screen and just making it look as good as it can. Yes, they do have that, but it doesn't look that great in terms of reading on this, although you can, absolutely. Now we're going to go to some text here and look at what it is like to type on this. Again, we're going to be fair, we're going to clear the screen. This is as white as we can get it. Let's go. So you know what? The speed is very good. It's very quick. It keeps up with everything. And what I really appreciate when we were doing our testing is that when you do things like Control All and delete and undo, and you do these long strings of backspacing, it's very instant. There's no delay with what you're doing on your PC over here off camera and what is actually happening on the display monitor. There's no actual delay or latency differences. It just does what exactly you're doing. And I actually really appreciate that, because that's the whole point of this unit, is for typing in videos and coding and really all those things. I don't technically believe this to be truly for color. That it has color is a pleasantry, kind of like a Game Boy Color, but it's not doing the phenomenal job that it kind of says it does in and around displaying color itself. In the end, how does the Paperlike Color fare? Moderate is what we can say. Is this usable? Absolutely it is. It can do anything your PC asks of it, and then some. It's incredibly fast, features color, and it's a pretty big screen all things considered. It's easy on the eyes, has tons of settings when it comes to different modes, different contrasts, and 4 different light styles with varying degrees of brightness intensity. In that regard, it's miraculous. However, the cons outweigh the pros by a pretty severe margin. This unit isn't cheap. It's $1,800 USD, which amounts to over $2,500 in some markets. They have disclaimers on the box that says if you see flickering, stop use it or you'll void your warranty, which basically means your device either can't have warranty or you have a device that is malfunctioning. The color looks awful on basically any combination of any mode. The screen is one of the most interesting combinations of matte and reflective we've ever seen that really comes at a detriment to any viewing angle. And although the video is as advertised, keeping up with our LCD LED laptop at 33Hz, the quality in which it is displaying is on the lower end of devices even 6 years ago. So with this, the Dasung Paperlike gets a 6 out of 10. Dasung is a great company, an amazing company that has dedicated themselves for 10 years to make monitors and essentially monitors only, as they've only deviated from that business model a few times. But this device is just simply not ready for prime time. Although it is as advertised, we agree, this is revolutionary, and it does have god-like level of high refresh that can't be refuted, but it just doesn't look good. Thank you to all our members for sticking with us over the years, thank you to Dasung for sending us this sample, and keep looking forward to more videos from goodereader.com.